It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. We got a good show for you today, so just please hit that share button so we can get this blasting out to people all over the world. Today's show is sponsored by Mike Lindell and our friends at MyPillow. Many of you know that MyPillow was kicked out of most big box stores for daring to support Donald Trump. It kind of makes me smile when I see these very same box stores now being looted, and none of the progressives know how to handle it. But their loss is your gain. With the holiday season upon us, MyPillow is offering their classic pillow for just $20 when you use the access code Dr. Duke, D-R-D-U-K-E. You can also save up to 66% on other items when you visit MyPillow.com. Again, just use the access code Dr. Duke to save a bundle and get that classic MyPillow now. Okay, to start today with a radical think piece from a former school teacher who claims parents have no right to interfere with a teacher's instruction, comparing teachers to doctors. Reminds me of Fauci, who came out yesterday and said, "I'm science. I'm science. When you criticize me, you're criticizing science." Somebody needs to flush that turd. Meanwhile, we have a situation here with Christina Wyman, who laments that parents are trying to interfere with public school curriculum. Quote, "Parents have always tried to interfere with curricula, as I observed when teaching middle school in the mid-2000s. Even then, there was no shortage of parental input about the content of my instruction. Part of the problem is that parents think they have the right to control teaching and learning because their children are the ones being educated." Right? Why am I not seeing it the same way she does? It's sort of like entering a surgical unit thinking you can interfere with an operation simply because the patient is your child. Well, in a way you can. You could stop that operation if you needed to, but go on, Katie.
When you read this and someone tries, and people try to do this, it's pretty much only about teaching. It's always only about teaching, where they feel they need to make teachers and being an educator like superhuman level.
This is serious work.
And they have to always compare it to, well, it's like, in this instance, it's like having surgery. So my kid's education and the teachers doing their superhuman work is like being a surgeon. So we're going to compare as if these apples are actually apples, and you can't compare them because they're apples to it's not even a food item.
Glorified babysitters masquerading as educators whose kids can't read, and people performing thoracic surgery. Well, don't think they're the same thing.
And even I mean, you can't even make this analogy. Like, I don't understand how you can try and say that these are apples to apples comparison, because if I was going to have surgery, I'd be able to hire the surgeon and beforehand ask many questions of the surgeon. What are you specifically going to do? Take me through the entire surgery for my child who's sitting here, because I'm on their behalf sitting here telling what to. So you would hire that person. If you didn't like what you heard, you got to fire them. You can't
fire them.
You cannot do that with a single teacher. Before the school year, during the school year, tell me exactly what you're going to do to teach my child. You get the rigmarole. You would get like basically the hospital's response instead of the surgeon sitting in front of you. That would be like the equivalent, because you'd get like whatever the curricula says. So to try to make this out to be as if teachers are the equivalent of surgeons is absurd.
The author of the piece is about Christina Wyman is A.J. Kaufman, who responds, quote, "While in my 20s, I taught school in the toughest part of arguably the toughest district in America. I've since written articles on educational reform for nearly 2 decades and published a book about this. Parents, rich and poor, black and white, urban and rural, are entitled to input because they are responsible for their children's formation, to say nothing of the fact that they're paying for it. By law, parents are also the ultimate authority when it comes to upbringing their children and can be jailed for failing to do so." Wyman, on the other hand, continues, "Teaching, too, is a science."
Science! Science! It's all the science. We're all about science here in America.
Now when you criticize a teacher, I'm science. When you criticize me, and I'm teaching first grade reading to a bunch of little rugrats, I'm science now. Teaching too is a science, Wyman, who is proudly not a parent, opined. Unless they're licensed and certified, parents aren't qualified to make decisions about curricula. Parents who attempt to influence curricula with their personal opinions, ideologies, and biases hinder that goal.
You know, when people say, oh, you have a college degree, you must be smart, okay? Considering I have several degrees and teaching is the latest one, like education is my latest degree, here's what having this license and certification means. It means I could sit in a classroom and know how to BS to get my way through, to get that piece of paper that says I am now licensed and certified. So parents, you're not qualified to make these decisions because you didn't sit in a classroom to get a piece of paper at the end of the day. Instead, you actually raised those kids and actually are with them every day and know how education works, because you too are a human being in America and have been through an education system and knew how crappy it was back then. And you don't want to see that for the kids that are standing right beside you.
And A.J. Kaufman agrees with you. Author A.J. Kaufman agrees with you about the worthlessness of an education degree. His response to her is, quote, licensed and certified. I was forced to attend 2 years of graduate school to become a licensed certified teacher and recall learning nothing of relevance. It's box checking and a way for colleges to take more money. And teaching is not brain surgery, literally or figuratively. Even if teaching were akin to brain surgery, parents still switch doctors, seek second opinions, and refuse consent for treatments. A surgeon going around a patient's wish to perform surgery would be sued and lose his license. Teachers, like the arrogant Wyman, have lifetime tenure and frequently come from the bottom of their graduating classes in terms of achievement. These two professions are wholly different.
Well, me and Mr. Kaufman, we're on the same page. But let's, remember that whoever is at the bottom of the barrel and still gets that piece of paper can be making decisions on your children's behalf. So you never think about that until all of a sudden you think about it.
Are you a fan of the show? Consider joining the Patriot Club. Your tax-deductible donation of $99 a year keeps us going. Simply visit patriotclub.us. That's patriotclub.us to pledge your support and receive our signature tumbler as a token of our appreciation. We've got much more to come. Stay with us.
Well, we're going to bring it on home to Wisconsin, where we have some Wisconsin parents who have banded together to sue their school district over policy that allows teachers and now school officials to refer to their children, the parents' children, by different names and gender pronouns without seeking consent of the parents or even acknowledging it. Not even just being like, hey, by the way, this happened. Nope, they shoot, zip, zip. The school's saying hush, hush. The Kettle Moraine School District, which for those of you not in Wisconsin is north of the Milwaukee area. Just know it's somewhere up north compared to Milwaukee. And it's south for us. But anyway, Kettle Moraine School District, their policy is taking away the parents' rights to make decisions about what's best for their own children. Surgeons again. Maybe it's the surgeons need to come in around here. The argument is being made by the parents, and they're being represented. This is really good. Alliance Defending Freedom and the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. We've talked about them. Will, as they go by. One of the sets of parents suing the district said that they actually took their 12-year-old daughter out of the school district after finding out that her teachers were referring to, the daughter by a male name and using male pronouns without the parents' knowledge. And then the parents protested about the matter, and the school cited their policy. Oh, okay, so they just went to their policy and said that educators did not need parental consent to use a different pronoun or a name than those that was actually given by the parents. We've seen this across the nation, and now it's hitting rural Wisconsin here too. Basically, the policy is saying that teachers and officials have the ability to get around the parents who do not want their child basically moving in a direction of what would be gender transition or even, honestly, gender confusion at this point, And the set of parents also said that they had sought counseling to help their daughter. So they're trying to help their daughter work through whatever it is going on with her. And the school is saying, I don't think so. Parents, get out of the way. You want to be known as Henry today? Okay, Henry, it's Henry.
The school did not respond, surprise, surprise, to a letter ADF sent asking the district to change its policy. After this effort failed, the suit challenging the policy was filed in the Waukesha Circuit Court.
Well, and then Anderson said that she believes that many schools across the country have adopted similar policies to that of what's happening at Kettle Moraine School District. And she said that the Kettle Moraine policy means that the school can, quote, allow and even encourage students to change their gender identity without telling parents, and in many cases lying to parents. So, hey, the schools, they're getting what they want, turning the kids against their parents. Because isn't it like a community effort in the schools, and we should have these students
Yeah, you remember
12,
when it took
13, 14, 15, 19 hours a day?
You remember
Ernie.
when it took a village?
Thank you,
but
Hillary.
apparently only a village of highly educated
Exactly.
Teachers with 4-year degrees. That's the only village we want here. Yeah, this is a problem. And what's most shocking and alarming to me is not that they're doing it, but that they're lying to you about doing it.
Well, and they have to lie to you to
That's
do
the
it.
thing. The ease with which a school administrator or a teacher or a principal will look you in the eye and lie to your face. If any other practitioner did that to you, you would sever ties immediately. If with the kind of money you're turning over to these people, if they looked you in the eye, you got hire let's hire an electrician, right? And you're talking to the electrician about what he is and isn't doing. And did you actually fix those fuses? Did you actually rewire those fixtures? Oh yeah, I did, but I didn't. I mean, this would be better Business Bureau fraud. But because they're teachers, there seem to be very little consequences.
And like in the last story where, Christina's talking about how parents, they don't have the education, they don't have the certificates like we do. What parents need to know is not, like, parents have the right and knowledge to how to educate children. We don't have the knowledge to know how to get through the bureaucracy and all the red tape that encompasses the school district. And that's what this is. It's the policy. It's just like you don't know much maybe about the federal government and how that whole operation is, because there are so many layers to peel back of this ugly, gross onion to figure out actually what's happening in the core. Like, you just don't want to see it. And that's what these parents, thankfully, in Kettle Moraine School District are trying to fight, is they're trying to peel back the onion and actually see what's going on inside, because clearly it's all into the policy and it's interwoven, and the parents are actually taking the effort to educate themselves to know what's going on so that they can then help their own children.
Well, and I got to close by saying, when you peel back more of the onion of the public schools, there's just more stinking tears.
Today's show is sponsored by Clean Start Hand Sanitizer. For an odor-free foam hand sanitizer that lasts 2 hours and provides 19 refills, visit FreedomProject.com/clean. That's KLEEN to order yours today.
All right, well, now we're going to head a little west, but stay in Wisconsin. We're at UW-Madison. UW-Madison, the grad students, if you want to be a graduate student there, you have to take this quiz or course. They're calling it different things. But this semester, they had to take this and pass this and get a perfect score in order for them to, just register for their courses for spring 2022. And one student actually raised this issue up, pointing out to all the masses who wanted to read about this, why are we doing this? What does this have anything to do with anything? And the student had wondered why this quiz that they had there, they call it kind of a course as well, why they had to reflect on their own personal views around power, privilege, oppression, and the intersections of violence. What does that have to do at all with getting a graduate degree? This student wondered. And so we actually, this caught the attention of not only this student and all the grad students who had to do it, but Rebecca Clayfish, which if you follow Wisconsin politics at all, you may remember her as being the lieutenant governor just a few years back. And now she's also running to be governor and unseat Tony Evers. So she decided, whoa, why are grad students being told to do this? And then she made a video about it, so she wanted to point it out to everyone else in Wisconsin as to what UW-Madison is doing.
This one comes to us from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, my alma mater, and it's for graduate and professional students. They were emailed a letter saying that if they did not take and then pass a quiz on critical race theory, among other things, they would not be allowed to enroll in their spring 2022 courses. It's right there at the bottom. If you don't complete the required program by September 24th, an enrollment hold will be placed on your student account and you can't register. So what's so bad about the curriculum, and does it really mention critical race theory? It does. Take a look at the slide that says critical race theory and critical race feminism. It says privilege feeds institutional power and combined with prejudice creates harmful systems. And using these systems, people in dominant groups use their institutional power to control people in marginalized groups. They do this by limiting their rights, freedoms, and access to critical resources like healthcare, education, housing, and employment. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not a person of that type of privilege because I don't do any of those things. Unless, according to UW-Madison, you are, in fact, and you're one of these groups that they describe in their course. White or Caucasian, not disabled, cisgender, heterosexual, allosexual, Christian, thin, men, middle or upper class, middle-aged, people whose native language is English, or citizens.
This is really a big deal. I mean, why are you're admitting graduate students into your university? They are making plans to come. They've accepted your offer. They've changed their life in order to be able to move to Madison or attend Madison in the fall. And then all of a sudden, right before they enroll in classes, you throw this at them, right? It's the timing on this is disgusting. If you're going to do that, you should have a disclaimer saying that if we will put it in your literature. We will not even consider your application unless you're willing to engage in this kind of behavior. This required quiz, this program goes on to inform students that UW, the University of Wisconsin, requires them to complete the UW Health Services online prevention education course called Graduate and Professional Students Preventing and Responding to Sexual and Relationship Violence. The course takes 90 to 120 minutes, up to 2 hours to complete, and all, quote, incoming students in the grad and professional degree programs are expected to complete the course. Modules are filled with the kind of controversial, race and gender-centric radical indoctrination that is raising concerns on college campuses and in public classrooms around the country. The Knowledge Check quiz, which mandates a 100% ask questions like, which of the following are examples of oppression? Select all that apply. Racism, ableism, colonialism, sexism. Students are expected to define institutional power, privilege, oppression, intersectionality, and microaggressions, and to, quote, understand how marginalized folks are disproportionately impacted by violence, unquote. Everything we've talked about, everything Rebecca Clayfish listed there is completely opinion-based garbage. It is political. It is the ideology of the university. It has nothing to do with proof or truth or evidence. It's just a bunch of feel-good left-wing talking points that we're going to make you have to deal with before we ever let you set foot on campus.
And the student who actually raised this issue up and made it so that Rebecca Clayfish, who, by the way, yes, she used to be in TV news, so she's still got the skill. The student actually raised the question, which all of us are probably thinking. He actually said he felt hoodwinked. I like how he used the term hoodwinked. He says, my concern is we are paying $10,000 to attend graduate school and I'm committed to studying. Am I going to be penalized in a course because I don't agree with them that capitalism is evil? And then he actually said that he tried to fail the quiz. What a smart guy. He doesn't need grad school. He's smart enough. He tried to fail it because he doesn't believe in the divisive ideas. And then, as we learned, you have to get 100%. So he was not able to actually move ahead in this stinking course because he had to provide the correct, whatever they call correct answer as to, obviously, as you said, a subjective question. And isn't that what indoctrination is? Isn't that what indoctrination is?
And
yes.
Quickly before we move off, UW-Madison spokesman John Lucas defended the mandated course and quiz, saying safe academic and work environments are essential to UW campus culture and the success of its graduate students. Quote, UW-Madison has dedicated resources to preventing violence and supporting students who have experienced sexual harassment, assault, intimate partner violence. This is why we're going to do this. Well, again, then be honest about it. Don't bury it. Don't wait until they do it in enrollment. Make this a precondition of even, in fact, before you even cash the $60 application fee, you should let them know that if we do go ahead and evaluate you and bring you in, you're going to have this worldview. You're going to have to go 3 talking points. Let's see how long that lasts. Time again for some real education. We are back to our theme week here on images of the flagellation of Christ. It's one of the torments that Christ endured on his way to crucifixion on Calvary. And this one is a particularly brutal one. If you've ever seen Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, and I very much recommend it to you, you get a sense of what this flagellation was really like. Leather whips that these Roman soldiers wielded that had the equivalent of fish hooks on the end of them, so that when the whip made contact with the body, those hooks dug into the flesh. And then when the Roman centurion would yank that whip back out, it would take chunks of flesh and gobbets of blood with it. It was a horrible thing to have to endure. It was the kind of thing that many prisoners died from the flagellation before they even made it to the stage of crucifixion. And if you take a look at our image for today, another image from Caravaggio, the great Baroque master, doing the same thing in an image here. This one, the last one we looked at yesterday, telescope the screen. This one backs up a little bit, right? This one gives you a little bit more distance. You can see the full body profiles of the 2 torturers and Christ. You see the Roman column to which Christ is being chained or tied as part of his torment. You can see the really beautiful and sad way that Christ has tilted his torso to the left, the head drooping, almost with exhaustion. He's being rearranged by the torturers. You can see the torturer on the right sort of kicking the back leg back of Christ, and you can see them beginning their sinister torturing work here. And all of these images are really quite arresting, and because it's that moment, perhaps that last moment before Christ undergoes this horrific torture. And to see the resignation, to see the calculated helplessness of Christ. Remember, he is the Son of God, so he endures this. He has the power to resist it, but he endures this and all of this torture on the behalf of those of us, the rest of us, who are sinful and lost without this kind of sacrifice. Why is this blood necessary? Why is blood necessary to remove the blood on our hands for sin and violence? It's a really contemplative picture. It's one that you maybe want to look at during Easter week when you're doing the Stations of the Cross or contemplating the path that Christ had to take in the material world to bring about salvation.
All right, before we go, let's show some love to our Patriot Club members. And today, we are giving a shout out to Carol from Morristown, New Jersey. Carol, thank you for supporting us. And that wraps up this show for Freedom Project. I'm Katie, he's Dr. Duke.
Until next time, stay educated, and if you're not educated, well, stay away from UW-Madison.